Ah! Someone help! This man just touched me down there. The woman's voice echoed through the hall where jazz music was playing. Now in the silent hall, there was a woman sitting down right in front of me, who looked unwell. She was the one who screamed. What? What happened? He touched you down there, that means. No, you have to listen to me. I was only trying to help her, but I couldn't bear the stares of the other guests, all whispering and looking at me. A few days later, for some reason, she showed up at my workplace and said, I'd booked a private room at the hotel. You need to take responsibility for that day. My name is Kevin Moore, I'm 19. I'm healthy, but I've chosen a somewhat unconventional life. My parents passed away when I was in middle school, and my grandma took me in and raised me. But my grandma either wasn't in a position to take me in easily. She's always been frail and, if anything, needed help herself, but she made sure I could go through my compulsory education without any problems. Thanks to her, I managed to go through middle school without being excluded by my friends. So I had no worries about my future path. Kevin, go to high school. Even if you can't afford to go to college, it's better for boys to at least finish high school. My grandma encouraged me to go to high school, but I declined. Grandma, I can get a high school diploma even if I don't attend school during the day. What? I found out that there are 3 types of high school programs: full-time, part-time, and correspondence. Most kids attend full-time school during the day. Then there's the part-time program where they work during the day and attend school in the evening. The common factor is that in full-time programs, students attend school and take classes during the day on weekdays, while in part-time programs, they attend in the evening or at different times from the full-time schedule. So what is the correspondence? The correspondence education mainly involves learning through communication, so the number of times students go to school is different from full-time and part-time. So if I wanted to work during the day, part-time is fine, but I wanted to be around to help my grandma when her health wasn't good. That's why correspondence, where I could study from home, suited me better. So I work part-time at a food manufacturing plant during the day and study at my own pace. The good thing about the correspondence is that there's no need to worry about repeating a grade. Even so, I've been studying diligently and I'm close to graduating. I've also been working diligently at the food manufacturing plant. I've been working there since I graduated middle school, so I know quite a bit about the work. Fortunately, I already have a job lined up for after graduation. Yes, I'm going to work. But honestly, I'd have loved to continue my studies. Good morning. Hey there. Actually, I have another side to me. Saying it like this sounds cool and I've always wanted to say it, but it's not like I'm doing anything bad. This other side. It means I have another part-time job. My other part-time job is performing at a jazz bar. In other words, I'm a jazz pianist. Not that I've been formally studying piano seriously, but I just pay for lessons with my part-time earnings when I have time. The owner, Mark, gives me lessons, and since I passed his test, I get to perform on stage. Mark, as the owner of a jazz bar, carefully teaches me songs that match the bar's atmosphere. You see, the reason why I want to continue my studies. I have a dream of becoming a jazz pianist. Not the kind who plays classical music on a big stage, but a jazz pianist who performs with saxophones and trumpets on a small stage. Once you get hooked on that unique world, it's hard not to be there. However, pursuing a career in music, even if it's not jazz, requires money. To freely navigate the music world, you need financial stability. I want to live a healthy life with my grandma. That's why I was planning to give up on this dream. Then one day, something happened. During my daytime part-time job, I had an encounter. Once a month, executives from the head office come to inspect the factory. Some pretty high-ranking officials are coming that day. They're here again this month. A bunch of executives. Joseph, a colleague also known as Joe, whispers to me quietly. I nodded and continued working as usual. It doesn't matter who's watching, my work is the same every day, whether I'm being watched or not. Oh, but there's someone I don't recognize. At Joe's comment, I looked up and saw an unfamiliar face. It was the company president, Robert Smith, and behind him, there was a young woman. I know who that is. Kate? She's Robert's daughter, Sarah. She's a freshman at a well-known private university and is involved in a student organization that does volunteer work and plans events. That's what Catherine, also known as Kate, from the same part-time job, is laughing about. As expected, her information network is impressive. You're well informed. She's also famous as an influencer. I wonder why an heiress would come to inspect a place like this. Joe muttered sarcastically while checking the line of finished products. Indeed, this isn't the kind of place you'd expect an heiress to visit. But I couldn't help feeling envious of her, living in a completely different world despite being the same age, and sighed in resignation. After finishing my shift at the factory and changing clothes, my phone rang. I checked the caller ID, apologized to my coworkers, and answered the call right there. I couldn't wait until I got outside because the call was from the company where I had secured a job offer after graduation. Hello, this is Kevin. Sorry to keep you waiting. Then I moved to the corner of the locker room. Hello, this is James from HR at Cherry Corporation. Do you have a moment? Yes. Actually, due to our poor financial situation, we have decided to cancel our new hires for this year. What? We're very sorry, but we have to ask you to consider this as an unfortunate circumstance. James just delivered the bad news and hung up without waiting for my response. What? What did he just say? Unfortunate circumstance? What does that mean? My mind was spinning with confusion. My job offer had been rescinded. Was it because I attended a correspondence high school? I had carefully chosen what I thought was the best path, and this is the result? What am I going to tell my grandma? In a daze, I headed to my part-time job at the jazz bar. I sighed repeatedly while working. It's not like I get to play the piano here all the time either. When I'm not playing the piano, I clean and serve orders to the customers. However, I was quite distracted. I was aware of it, but the cancellation of my job offer was a big shock. Hey, Kevin. Mark. Come to the back room for a moment. Okay. I braced myself, thinking he was going to scold me for being distracted at work, but Mark offered me a seat and a warm cup of tea. Kevin, you're acting strange today. Did something happen? What? Everyone is worried. They say you seem down. Hearing Mark's kind words, I shrank in my chair. But with the warm tea and Mark's gentle gaze, the emotions I had been holding back overflowed, and tears streamed down my face. I stained my black slacks, the uniform of the bar, but the tears wouldn't stop. Actually, today, my job offer was canceled. What? They abruptly stopped new hires. Since I don't have parents and got my high school diploma through correspondence, I was probably the first to be cut. Wasn't your job offer with Cherry Corporation? They've been doing well lately, haven't they? Mark's words made me think, yeah, that's right. That's why the job listing didn't mention anything about educational background. But HR said, due to poor business conditions, we're canceling new hires. It wasn't a big corporation. Still, my grandma was so happy when I got a job offer from such a decent company. Hey, Kevin. Yes. If you want, why don't you keep working here? But I know there's a difference between a part-time job and a full-time position, and you might have other plans. But I'll do everything I can to support you, okay? Okay. I appreciated Mark's kindness and increased my hours at the bar. I wanted to earn as much money as possible. Kevin, there's a student group reservation on this day, can you work a full shift? Of course. A student group. I had heard that term somewhere recently. Which university's student group is it? That famous private university. Oh. I remembered. It was the daughter of President Smith who had come to inspect the food manufacturing plant. Kate had mentioned the student group the daughter joined. Kevin? Are you okay? No problem. I'll do my best that day. She probably didn't even know, let alone remember, the face of a part-time worker at the plant. With that thought, the day arrived. The students who came to the bar were all glamorous and sparkling. A world I had no connection to. Instead of feeling envious, I focused on my own job and carried out Mark's instructions. Knowing my dream, Mark gave me the opportunity to perform a few songs as an introduction. While playing the piano and observing the audience, I noticed something. Sarah, the daughter of President Smith, looked unwell in the corner of the bar. However, from the way other members were talking to her and trying to assist, it was clear she was the organizer of this event. An organizer at such events usually can't really enjoy themselves. They have to constantly keep an eye around to make sure everyone else is having a good time, and it's their job to come up with the plans. If the initial plan is poorly received, they need to have backup plans ready, so there's no time to relax. It's tough for a freshman to take on such a role. She must be having a hard time. Not knowing much about how universities operate, I wondered if this was normal as I finished my performance and started helping out in the hall. "Miss, are you all right? Huh? Shall I bring you some water?" I asked her as a hall staff member. "I'm fine. I just stayed up all night planning today's event." "I see. Please let us know if you need anything." I walked away, but I was worried about her staying up all night. However, I couldn't just focus on her. While doing my job, I listened to Mark's solo performance. I saw Sarah unsteadily heading out of the hall, probably to the restroom. However, she suddenly collapsed as if she had gotten dizzy, and I immediately rushed over to her. No one else noticed because they were all engrossed in Mark's performance. "Miss, are you all right?" I spoke softly while approaching her, but she didn't respond. If she was in such bad shape that she couldn't hear me, I couldn't just leave her there. Then I said, "Miss, excuse me," and touched Sarah to help her stand up. First, I intended to move her to the staff resting room where she could take a moment. I thought if she could rest there, she'd feel better. "Ah!" But as I supported her, she suddenly screamed. I was startled but kept holding her to prevent her from falling. "No! Someone help! Oh, miss, hold on! No! Someone help! What? This man just touched my butt." I was shocked by Sarah's screams, but I couldn't let go of her since she was still unsteady on her feet. My heart was racing as Mark stopped his performance and looked over from the stage. The gathered students saw me holding Sarah's arm as she sat down, and they started whispering among themselves. "That's disgusting, touching a girl in the dark. Shouldn't we call the police? Is this place safe with guys like him?" Hearing those comments, I felt a deep shame and tears welled up. "Huh?" Sarah, who had started the commotion, seemed to realize the impact of her words. "Excuse me for a moment. Kevin, calm down. Take deep breaths." Nodding at Mark's gentle voice, I took small, slow breaths. "Miss, what happened?" Mark asked softly and gently. Sarah, looking a bit awkward, began to speak. This guy touched my butt." "And Kevin? Are you going to ask him too?" Both sides need to be heard in situations like this. Mark's logical statement silenced Sarah. "Kevin, did you really touch this customer's butt?" "No." The customer was unsteady and suddenly collapsed, so I was trying to help her to the break room to rest. I explained exactly what I did. Drag her to the back? What was he up to? Disgusting. That's just an excuse. Hearing the jeers from the university students made me feel even more miserable. All I could hear were voices criticizing and blaming me, causing me to squeeze my eyes shut. "Quiet down." Mark's shout brought silence to the hall. The way our staff handled this might have been inappropriate for a woman. As the manager, I apologize for that. "Miss, I am truly sorry for the careless handling." Mark bowed his head towards Sarah. "However, please understand that our staff was trying to help you." "Well, I understand that. He was the one who noticed I wasn't feeling well." It seems Sarah remembered when I had checked on her earlier. The other university students were clearly unhappy with this outcome and continued to murmur. Seeing some of them trying to point their phones and cameras at us, Mark immediately stepped in. "Please refrain from taking any photos. This is not a matter for those uninvolved to amuse themselves with. If my staff faces any defamation without evidence, we will take appropriate action." This is not a threat, it's a promise. Mark's firm declaration silenced any objections. After that, Mark took Sarah and me to the back room. In the hall, the jazz performance resumed, and the students' chatter filled the air. "I'm sorry for touching your butt. I didn't mean to." I immediately apologized to Sarah. "And sorry for causing a scene, Mark." "No. Kevin, you're exhausted from working day and night, aren't you? Don't worry about here. Mark reassured me, and I nodded repeatedly at his comforting words. Oh, I thought I'd seen you somewhere before. You work at my dad's factory, don't you? Oh, so you're familiar with the food manufacturing plant where Kevin works during the day? Yes, so you're working at my dad's factory too. Her voice was filled with pity for my situation. Privileged Sarah attended university without any significant hardships. Having to work both day and night, that's so sad. What? Her casual comment made me raise my voice slightly. How could I describe my emotions at that moment? A complex mix of anger and a deep sense of helplessness. You have no right to call me sad. I'm here because I want to be, I said quietly, glaring at Sarah. A few days after this incident, I was stopped as I left the factory after my shift. Hey, Kevin Moore. Hearing my full name, I turned to see Sarah. I need to talk to you. I don't have anything to say. We had agreed to keep the bar incident quiet. So I couldn't understand why she was approaching me now, and my response came out cold. It's important. Not here, though. So, what is it? Could you please accompany me? I've arranged for a private dining room where no one can overhear us, she said. I thought, this is why rich people. But seeing the seriousness on her face, I decided to comply. She took me to a reasonably upscale hotel. As she had said, we were shown to a private room in the hotel's restaurant, where she sat across from me. Today is the bar's day off, right? So, you don't have any plans afterward, do you? You seem well informed. Yes, that's correct. That's why I'd prefer to spend time with my family on days like this. Sarah looked down, feeling awkward. I want to apologize for what happened that day. Afterward, my dad scolded me. The bar manager, Mark, is actually my dad's friend, and it seems he told my dad everything that happened. I was somewhat surprised by this revelation. I didn't know that Mark and President Smith were friends, which explained why Mark was so understanding of my situation. My dad scolded me. He said I took on the student group work half-heartedly, ended up getting sick, caused trouble for everyone, and said awful things to someone who was working so hard. He made me realize how spoiled I've been. Sarah said calmly, looking like she was about to cry, which made me feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm quitting the student group. I see. It was probably for the best. There was no point in staying in a group that pushed her to the brink of collapse. By the way, your piano playing that day was wonderful. Oh? Thank you. I replied vaguely, surprised by Sarah's sudden compliment. Hey, have you thought about furthering your studies seriously? What? You love playing the piano, don't you? I do. But if you've heard about my situation from Mark, you should know that's not possible. Currently, my highest level of education is a high school diploma, but some people still mock me for attending a correspondence high school, considering me as good as a middle school dropout. My only family is my grandma, and we can't afford the expensive tuition of music education. I can't burden my grandma. Did you know that my dad runs a scholarship program for arts universities? No, I didn't. If you're financially struggling but have good grades, they cover not only tuition but also provide a monthly stipend equivalent to a full-time salary. You know what I mean? Hearing this, I started to think. I fit the criteria of being financially struggling with no parents. But what about my grades? I thought about how beneficial the tuition and monthly stipend equivalent to a full-time salary would be, but then shook my head. Even so, my grandma is already elderly, and I want to be close enough to help if anything happens. Additionally, the school offers grants that don't need to be repaid. With these combined, you wouldn't have to worry about money and could focus on studying freely. Mark said you have the talent to qualify for these scholarships and vouched for you to my dad, Sarah continued. Mark did? My dad also said that seeing your hard work at the factory, he fully supports you. How about it? Are you willing to give it a try? Her offers sounded incredibly appealing. Of course, you can continue working part-time at the factory as long as it doesn't interfere with your studies. Your salary will even increase. If the commute or physical strain is an issue, my dad said he could help find a different job for you. Something that balances well with your studies. Why are you going this far? I was confused by the sudden offer. From the incident that day, I realized that my involvement in the student group was mostly self-serving. I claimed to be helping those in need. But I was just indulging in a sense of self-righteousness, she explained. What do you mean? That day's events made me realize it. I'm grateful to you for giving me that wake-up call. So now, I want to help you achieve the life you truly want, Sarah said, looking up at me with a slight tilt of her head. Or is this just another act of self-indulgence? I gently shook my head at Sarah's self-deprecating comment. No, it's not. Thank you for telling me about this opportunity. But, as I said this, I wondered if I really had the ability to succeed in this new path. Even if I followed the path I loved, I was unsure if I could make a living from it. To be honest, I was scared. But, be clear, she urged. Yeah, I replied. You have talent. Both my dad and Mark believe in you. And of course, so do I. Really? Absolutely. You have many people supporting your dream. Sarah's kind yet strong words washed my hesitation away. Responding to her encouragement, I found myself saying, thank you. I'll give it a try. Sarah smiled at my response. I heard that loud and clear. A man should keep his word once he said it. Of course. Good. And one more thing. One more thing? Take responsibility for touching my butt that day, Sarah said with a triumphant look on her face. I was momentarily stunned, then broke into a smile. Ha, you know that was your own doing. I couldn't help but laugh as well. Now, let's enjoy our meal today, and we'll discuss the details later. I've never dined in a private room before. My dad said this is his way of saying thanks, so order whatever you like. The shrimp ahijo here is delicious. Watching her laugh so joyfully in front of me, I felt a mix of confusion and happiness about this unexpected opportunity. Determined to face my fears, I decided to pursue my dreams wholeheartedly.